CNN, best for last. You guys know I had to cover this story.
There is good news in the world.
There is great news in the world. And a lot to say, actually. Let's put this up there on the screen. Profits slump at CNN as ratings plummet. The network is on pace to drop below $1 billion in profit for the first time in years. Now, why does this matter? Number one, it does show you, and I've tried to emphasize this, CNN is still very, very, very profitable. They are still, yes, they're below $1 billion, but they're going to make $975 million in profit, Krystal, or sorry, $956 million in profit. The reason, though, is that for a long time, the vast majority of CNN's profits did not rely on ratings or advertising. They relied on the cable bundle and subscription fees. That is what keeps all three of these cable channels afloat. If they had to rely purely on advertising, they're dead tomorrow. And what this shows you, though, is that the really like three-legged stool of their revenue, one of those is beginning to significantly weaken and crack, which is the ratings. They point to the fact that CNN's audience is down 25%, even more so than MSNBC and other benchmarks. And the biggest problem for them, really, is just how bad the viewership is. So to give you guys an idea, in the primetime network, the primetime slot, the average in the quarter, prime time, is 639,000 people. That is less than some, that's actually less than some off days of breaking points. Now, I'm not claiming that we're making $1 billion in profit. It'd be nice if we were, but I'm just giving you a perspective of how few people are watching this in prime time, which is the place where, look, even MSNBC is drawing 2 million. You know, Tucker's drawing like 4 million in this time slot.
Well, and most of those people don't matter for advertising revenue because they're outside of the key demo. I mean,
so now we're talking like 50,000
Yeah, in terms of cable news, like I know a lot of times they report the total numbers, but the only thing that actually matters is the key demo, which is, you know, if they're getting 600K, overall, they're probably getting like maybe 150 in the demo. So it's pretty pathetic.
Oh, it's not just pathetic, but it also does show you that the network is under tremendous amount of pressure because they just blew some $300 million on CNN Plus, which they had to fold. But remember this too, in the economic environment of right now, profit is king because they need the excess cash for their major holding company, which is now Discovery. And they point to this, that Discovery for the time being is like, hey, look, CNN, we want it to just be news, we want it to be facts, and we're okay if the profits go down. Name me the CEO of a public company that actually is okay with its profits going down. This is what you've always predicted, which is they'll say it, they'll stick to it for 6 months, and then when the money becomes clear, they're going right back to the BS that made them float in the first place.
Because they'll see the most deranged person is the one that gets the highest ratings,
exactly.
and they won't be able to resist. That's the way it goes. I did think it was interesting. So the new guy in charge there, Chris Licht, he says CNN would generate revenue by pitching advertisers on the network's, quote, pristine brand, LOL, not just sheer audience size, according to a recording of his remarks obtained by the New York Times. So, I mean, there is a strategy there that, like, for example, Morning Joe has never been, and this is CNBC's strategy, small audience, but very wealthy.
High value.
And so it's high value. For Morning Joe, it's small audience, but they're very influential. So it's like, you know, a cachet, and again, very profitable, very valuable, high value audience. So, I mean, there is a potential strategy there, but CNN is meant to be for like the broad masses. That has always been the sort of positioning of it. So if you're going to go in this more niche direction, it's just hard to see exactly how you carve out that lane. Morning Joe obviously does it by being like the clubby insider place where members of Congress come on, they're watching it in the Senate gym or whatever. You've got CNBC, or Bloomberg, they pull it off by, you know, catering to Wall Street and money. And so I don't know what CNN's version of that.
Their value proposition.
I don't know what that really looks like. The failure of CNN Plus was a problem not just because of the massive hundreds of millions of dollars that they blew on it, but because that was their strategy.
For the future.
Like, they knew that this was coming. All these cable news, prior to Trump, they all knew that they had a real problem, that they had this aging demographic, they had all these cord cutters, there's all this competition out there. Young people are not They don't have cable. They're not watching cable. Like, they all knew that this day of reckoning was coming. And so CNN Plus was Zucker's big bid to, all right, this is the future. You know, they really sold it that way. They said when it launched that this was the most historic day in CNN history since the launch of the network. That's truly how they envision this. So when that fell on its face and the plug is pulled immediately, that really leaves them with no long-term strategy to speak of how they're going to change this model to make sense for the future.
It's also a good pro tip, which, as they mentioned, look, we all have power in this. The more of us that cut the cord and the less of us that have cable, the less money that the cable companies are going to pay CNN and Fox and MSNBC. The number one, also if you hate ESPN, the number one way to stick it to the mainstream media is to actually not have cable in the first place.
Yeah.
Having the internet and giving more leverage to bargainers who want exclusive streaming rights and more. Like, for example, I am rooting hard for YouTube or for some other streamer to buy NFL rights. I don't watch the NFL. You know why? Because I know that NFL and live sports is the only reason tens of millions of Americans still have the cable bundle today. If we can destroy the cable bundle, they're done. All they care about is their customers. If they know that their customers just want more high-speed internet, they're not going to pay CNN out of the kindness of their hearts. Comcast, they offloaded NBC and all this other stuff, or trying to for a reason, because they're not profitable businesses outside of this very, very, very archaic model from the 1980s. So this is the last area of real disruption, the last place that the internet can destroy them. And CNN is watching what it means for the world to increasingly move to online content. They've proven that they cannot compete whatsoever in an actual digital environment. And overall, this is just great news, because it does show me the market worked. It takes too long sometime, but it can work, and it can take these people out.
Listen, I cheer for their failure because they're terrible for the country.
Yeah, they really are.
I mean, they really are terrible. But CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they are terrible for the country. I support a just transition for the workers. I think they should be trained to code or other industries.
I have a friend who works there. He's a good guy. I hope he lands up.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there are plenty of good people who are just trying to make their way in the world who work at these places. As I said, I support a just transition for them, but they need to be moved out of an industry that is destroying the country.
Yeah, until we can figure out what the hell is going on.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.